Hello, Mr. Chauhan.
Hello, Puneet. How are you?
I'm great. Welcome to my show, Valor and Wisdom. My name is Puneet Singh Mehra, and today again I'm here with an untold history which was buried for a long period of time. As you know, we have our special guest, Mr. Jay Chauhan, who is the author of Loving the Empire. So, Mr. Chauhan, what's going on?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And it's a pleasure to discuss history. And we should reflect on history and what we learn from it. So, today's episode, I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chauhan. So, to all my viewers, today again I'm going to tell you one more untold history about the revolt which was happened in 1832. And yes, 1857 was the second revolt. The first revolt was done by the Parsis community in 1832. So let me tell you what's happened in the 1832 revolt. So during the 1818, the Britishers were there. So the Britishers of Bombay decided to issue a regulation to kill dogs. And every year between April to May and from September to October, they kill all the stray dogs. And for this, Britishers also envoyed our special forces to kill all the dogs. But the situation became tense on 6th July 1832, which is the holy day of Parsis. So I'm going to tell you one small holy scriptures from the Zoroastrians. The teaching of Atirama Sag, it means a great respect for the dog, is found in Zoroastrian religion scriptures. And my friend, she's from Mumbai, I stay in Mumbai, and she's also Parsi. So she told me about this story. So as we in Maharashtra we say, Amchi Mumbai. So what happened? The dogs are said to be the gatekeepers of heaven, and the gaze of dogs is said to be ward of evil. So the Parsi religious book Avesta also has a detailed complimentary of virtues of dogs and how they must be taken care of. Despite all the warnings, the British officer did not stop the roundup of dogs, and this thing really outraged for the Parsis. Despite giving all the warnings, Britishers didn't learn. So what happened? The Britishers didn't have a clue. On afternoon June 6, 1832, the police begins to round up the dogs and start killing them. And they receive a warning that the Parsis were getting restless. Soon a crowd of 200 Parsi came out to the street to mark their protest. The police came down in the full force as the tents rose to the central business and a commercial area within the Bombay came to stand still. The Parsi was outraged. Whatever they get, they go and fought against the Britishers. Spoon, swords, stones, whatever they can get. Soon, the Parsis were also joined by the Hindus and Sikh and Jain and many other communities. And now the protest of the population is reached to 500 people. By the next day, the preparation of full strike was taking shape. The shops were closed, the dogs were seized, and the palanquins carried by the Britishers were stopped and pelted with the stones. They stopped all the foods and waters for Britishers. By this, the Parsis were super outraged, but they also maintained their decorum. They taught a lesson to Britishers that you never dare to go against the Parsis to Indians. So this is the first revolt which was done by the Parsis in 1832. By this, the Britishers were so embarrassed what happened to them, and they later withdraw their request to killing the dogs. A deputation led by the Sir JAMSETJEE JEJEEBHOY, he further asked British not to kill dogs but to capture them. So this is the one more untold history of revolt which was forgotten by every one of them. And to every Indians, your history doesn't start from Mughal and end with British. These are your real heroes who fought against the Britishers to get you the freedom. And I'll tell you one more thing. If you don't know about the Parsis and the Hindus, there are many similarities. Like the Parsi do the fire temples, like they worship the fires, right? At the same time, in Hindus, we also worship fire, which we call as Havan Kunda. And the second one is we call it Mundan or Kernved, where you see like we put a thread to a child. And the same goes with the Parsi. They also put like a shirt with a thread to a child. So there are many similarities between the Parsis and the Hindus. So this is the untold history, which was buried for a long period of time. And this was the first revolt against the Britishers happened by the Parsis. As Mr. Chauhan, I always said that in order to create a fire in the mountain, you don't need a big fire. You just need a small spark. And this is the spark that every Indian needs that time. And after 1832, all the revolts happened against the Britishers. So this is the untold history of a revolt of 1832 done by the Parsis, which we also call as the Bombay Dog Rights. So Mr. Chauhan, what do you think about this part of history?
Excellent, Puneet. I did not know this part of the history. So I'm going to tell you my comments. How should we review history? And I'm reflecting it a lot because I was born in Africa as an Indian. And so the British history affected me a lot when East Africa became independent from the colonial rule of the Britain. But let's reflect back on 1832. Let's bring that picture into our minds, what happened at that time, so we understand the history. So first of all, who are the Parsis? They are Zoroastrian religion that governed the Persian Empire when the Persian Empire was an empire that conquered large parts of the Middle East, and then they were one of the biggest empires in the history. But most people do not know that the Persian Empire was based on Zoroastrian religion.
Yes.
That people don't know. So it's very important to know. So when that religion was taken out and removed from Iran, which is Iran today, Persia is Iran today.
Yes.
Then the people who strongly were attached to the religion, Zoroastrians, and they in the Farsi language called Zardusht. But
yes.
The reason why the Parsi name stuck in India is because they landed in Gujarat in a town called Sanjan in about 1,000 years ago. In keeping with their religion, they put up a fire. That fire on the pillar is like the Olympic fire, is still going on for 1,000 years today. Most people watching this video probably don't know the town. When I was in India and talking to my niece actually, and I said, do you know the history of Parsi people? She said, no. I said, what history do they teach you in the classroom? So it was to be amazing because Parsi community, and why the Parsi community was Zoroastrian called Parsi? Because they landed in Gujarat. They left their original Farsi language and adopted Gujarati language, which I speak, by the way. And they said to the Maharaja of Gujarat that will adopt will blend into your community like sugar blends into milk.
Yes.
And they were allowed to stay. As the history of India has explained to you, that India has assimilated all kinds of people like Canada is doing in the migration history. But they've been one of the best immigrants to India. The British, when they were removing the dogs from the streets of Mumbai, as it is called today, and called Bombay, when the British ruled India, it is important to remember the British were outsiders.
Yes.
And they didn't enter India through the Khyber Pass like everybody else did, including Alexander.
Yes.
So when they trying to control the dogs in Bombay, they are outsiders ruling and deciding for Indian people. And by that time, the Parsis had become, in 1832, an integral part of the Indian society. So they reacted, even today when they manufacture Jaguar car, which I drove yesterday, they had the people who have excelled in supporting the Indian culture and history. So in their religion, which India accepted, that okay, you can have every religion you can think of is sitting in India in large numbers. It's one of the most tolerant societies, Hindu society, is one of the most tolerant society in the world history. Actually, very important to keep in mind. So when the dogs were being controlled by the British, they were doing this in foreign country because they didn't like to see dogs walking all over the place, as the cows and dogs do in the villages of India, even today. You see?
Yes.
So when outsiders come and tell you what to do, it is not appropriate in my view when you reflect on history. So let's go back into saying that 1,000 years ago, the Persian people came to India with the religion, which India allowed them to keep the religion. They didn't ask them to change it.
Yes.
And then they wanted the dogs to be protected, which I think in the animal world is being protected very strongly in the Hindu religion, actually, including vegetarianism, actually, which is a part of the Indian religion.
Yeah, because in Parsis, the dogs are considered as very it takes the soul to the heaven. So it's like it came with the soul. Like it's a good thing in the Parsi community.
So it's important for people listening to the video to understand that Hinduism respects not only other religions, but they respect even the animal kingdom.
Yes.
Actually. So this is why the biggest country and the biggest number of vegetarians are in India, not anywhere else. And that's important to recognize why. The cows, the dogs are part of it. So the outsiders who don't understand the Indian culture think that India is a disorganized country. They let the cows walk on the street, the dog walk all over the place, and the outsiders come to say, we want to change your society. It's very inappropriate, and I think that it's good to reflect on how the Parsis stood up for the dogs in Mumbai. But just let me put that date, 1832, in perspective. The British in the British Parliament in 1833, at that time, India was already recognizing other religions. The British recognized the value of the human dignity and then said in their parliament, in all of a colony, out of a person, you destroy his dignity. In India, respect the dignity of not only animals, but also people and their religions throughout their history, much before 1833.
Yes.
In 1836, roughly, British created in India the indentured labor concept. And why are there so many Indians abroad? Is because Indian people are not as adventurous like the Europeans going out in the ships and conquering the world. It's off. That's how the Hindu religion treated the people within India, because India thought that they had it made because of the inventions that we've talked about, history programs, etc. So I think the history has changed a lot. It was wonderful to talk to you, and I enjoyed this program. And I hope the historians of India and the rest of the world are watching our program to understand that history can be entertaining, enjoyable, to talk about the dogs and the cows and how other societies go to other countries and conquer them.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Puneet. Enjoyable to talk about history.
Yeah, and to every Indians, remember, know your history, learn from your history, and really know your heroes. Your history doesn't start from Mughals and end with British. This is your heroes. The Parsis, the Hindus, the Sikhs, the Jain, the Buddhists, everyone sacrificed to get the freedom. And not to forget, India is the only country who's fighting for 2,000 years back to back. But still, not a single item has been changed from us. See, Mr. Chan, that's the power of our. That's the power. Not a single item has been changed till now. Okay, Mr. Chauhan. Thank you so much, Mr. Chauhan. Take care.
Thank you. See you.
Yeah.